she clearly didn't see the bit that said, stop reading here. And it was 6.5 months since I had stopped paying the credit card bill. And I was challenging them on the legality of the bill. On the fact that, and I asked them for documentation. I said, if you can prove I owe it, I'll pay it. But if you can't prove I owe it, I won't pay it. So prove to me I owe the money. Just send me a copy of a contract. Which they won't, because they can't, because they don't exist. Remember, according to corporate law, if there is no contract, or commercial law, if there is no contract, there is no contract. They couldn't. So I said, that's okay, just send me an invoice. If you give me an invoice, because an invoice is a declaration of a contract and a statement that there's money owed, and it gives a description, etc. And I asked this of the bank too, but the bank won't send invoice. How many of you ever got an invoice from the bank for anything? And all the money you gave them over the years. How many of you got an invoice? Ever. Not one. Never. Why? Because an invoice must have 3 things on it. It must have the word invoice on the top. Now that's a very powerful legal word. Go find a law dictionary and look up the word invoice and find out what it means, and you'll understand why it's so powerful. Number 2, it must have a signature on the bottom of it. It must be signed. Now, how does the bank sign anything? The bank is a legal fiction, as I knew, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Thirdly, what must an invoice have? It must have within the body of it a description of the goods and the services. Now, why do you think a bank will not give you an invoice? They provide nothing. They legally can't provide an invoice because an invoice is proof of extortion. This is fact. The senior bank executives will tell you this. I got it. I got it off the record. In a bank with a senior director who said, you're bang on. My own solicitor said you are 110% right. Absolutely no question. And they all advised me to keep it out shut. They said you're a fool. The system will destroy you. What they don't know is that I don't live with fear. The system can't destroy you. It can't destroy you, son. When you're free, you're free. When you're free and in your power, nothing can touch you. When you know that you belong to nothing, only to everything, no one understands how to get to you. When you realize there is only one, and I am not a human being, a spiritual being having a human experience, there is no way that this system knows how to work that. The power the bank have is your fear. The greatest currency spent in the bank is you being afraid. Fear is the most powerful currency in the world. What happens? You go in afraid, and you get tongue-tied, and you start to think, Jesus, I'm a bit stupid, I can't do this, this fella's intelligent, he's smart, she is in education, they know what to do, Jesus, I'm awful bad with figures, I can't even spend 20 quid to figure out where the half it went. And you start to doubt yourself, and you forget that you have a power. And the fear wins every time. But when you become fearless, remember there will always be fear in a negotiation with a bank. Always. Because the fear is the nature of their business. So you will never be in an environment of a bank where there is not fear. But if you're not afraid, where's the fear? They have. The bank are afraid when you're not, because they don't know how to handle you. They don't know how to understand someone who's confident. They only know how to make you respond under the fear of their punishment. So what happens is they use their fear technique, which is their letter, to make you think that you're in trouble. Then they send their debt collector. Well, you need to know, according to commercial law in Ireland, a debt collector is nothing to worry about. MBNA told me on the phone, Mr. Mc Keown, it's 6.5 months since you made a payment. You're going to have to make a payment soon. And in the negotiation, I said, well, look, I don't have the money to pay. So what do you do? Because I was trying out all the avenues to see how they deal with everything. I needed to arm myself with all the different understandings. So when people came to me, I could say, oh yes, I know how they deal with that problem. Here, try this, try this. And this girl said, well, if you don't have any money, could you get someone to help you? And I said, well, yes. Now, I had no intention of doing this, but I said yes to find out where the information went. I said, I'll get my father. And they said, well, my father was here laughing. Like a fat chance kid. So while he's going to laugh when he hears what I told him about what he said, you're going to get an education here then. So I said, okay, they said to me, look, talk to your father. So I said, okay, I'll have a chat with him tonight. The next day they phoned back. And they said, hello there, is that Mr. McKeown? I said, yes. And they said, can we have your date of birth? I gave it. Can we have your mother's maiden name? Can you tell me what you have for dinner? What colour is your underwear? Just for security reasons, thank you very much. Now, by the way, legally and lawfully, you don't know who they are either. So you can answer the phone and say, what's your name? What's your date of birth? What colour is your underwear? And when people do this, what's happening, and there are a lot of people doing this at the moment, because you have a right. You have a right to put security into your boundary the same way they do. And what they have to do at the end of that phone is they have to hang up. So you try to engage, legally and lawfully, there's very little they can do. You've tried to engage and they will not give you security questions and answers that you needed to engage with them, because you don't know who they are. So here's what happens. Let me continue with this. She said to me, Mr. McKeown, you're going to have to make this payment, you have to talk to your dad. The next day they phoned back, did you talk to your dad? I said, I did, I talked to my dad. And they said, well, what did he say? And I said, he said he'd give you €50 per month on both credit cards. Nice one, really appreciate it. I thought it was a bit scabby, he said 50 quid, but anyway, it was nice of him to offer. So here's the 50 quid a month, and she said, oh, that's wonderful. She said, we'd be delighted to accept that. All we need is for your father to send us a letter agreeing to do that. A contract, you see? If we can get him to write and sign, we have him nailed. Now, I know my dad quite well, he's a good man. So I'll tell you what he told me. The next day, the bank phoned. And because I said I'd have to talk to him and ask him about that. And the next day they phoned and they said, Mr. McKeown, did you ask your father, would he give that? And I said, I did. And they said, what did he say? And I said, please don't take this personally. He said, you can fuck off. And she said, well, we can't give this without us. And I said, my father said he's not entering a contract with you. I was starting to learn. I was getting wise. I was realizing what was really going on. I said, my father will not enter a contract with you. He said, no way. This between you and me. He'll give me the money and I can give it to you. MBNA said, we can't accept that. Now, I was recording this. I said, what you're telling me is that you are refusing my offer to clear your debt. You are refusing the offer that has been made for this debt to be cleared. She said, well, we don't want to. We have to, by law. We cannot accept it without a signed letter. Now, I just, bingo. And then she said, and besides, Mr. McKeown, this poor little girl got off. Thank God for it. She said, anyway, Mr. McKeown, it's nearly 7 months since a payment was made. And because we're not an Irish bank, because we're an American bank, by law, if you don't make a payment within 7 months, we have to write the debt off. And I said to her in my very calm voice, which really was starting to get, I said, can you just repeat that, please? There goes the recorder, and she said, within 7 months, if you don't repay a non-Irish bank, they must, by law, under licensing agreement, either write off the debt, sell it to a debt collector, or file it for future reference. File it for future reference means it gets lost in Room 101, you'll never hear it again. Write it off means you're free. Sell it to a debt collector is what they did. I got a letter from a company called, I think it was Cobalt, some of you I'm sure are familiar with in Talent and Dublin, the main debt collector for MBNA. And what they did was, they wrote to me and I wrote back and I said, thank you very much, I have no contract with you. I don't know who you are. You are what's known legally as a third-party interloper. I have no business with you. And you will therefore not be collecting debt from me. And you are instructed not to write to me anymore. Legally and lawfully, game over, problem solved. That debt disappeared. Everything is manageable. These people know and understand what is happening. They know their game is an illusion. They know that you don't owe money. And when you become the loud squeak, you get the oil and they make you disappear. This is how the system works. You don't owe money and they know it. Dundalk Credit Union kept chasing me. They kept coming after me. Finally, after many, many letters, they wrote me one and said, look, we're tired of this, we think you're wasting time. I was just sending nice little letters back. They said, we think you're wasting our time. And then, look what happened, I came across the name of a legal document called a notice for particulars. Now, when you send a notice for particulars, by law, the other party must respond. They must respond. So they sent me the summons, the threatened summons. And the first time you get a summons in the post, it's only a threat, it doesn't exist. It's only a document that there is no court case behind it. But they know it will make most of the sheeple. And for those of you who don't know what a sheeple is, it's the people who act like sheep. Who walk around going, bah, following all the authority. They know the sheeple will panic and respond. So there we were on the threshold of the potential court case. No negotiation. So I sent them a notice for particulars of 44 questions. Can you tell me what is the legal requirement of the credit union in relation to reserves on hand when they lend money? Can you tell me what it was the day this loan was created? Can you send me a copy of your license? Can you send me a copy of the policies and the procedures you must follow when a debt begins to become a bad debt? Must you tell me, is it true? Can you tell me, is it true the capital must be repaid to the provider of the capital? Can you tell me who provided the capital? Can you tell me how that capital happened, how it was created? Can you send me a copy of the very bookkeeping that took place to make this happen? So on and so on and so on. 10 days later, dear Mr. Mc Keown, we are hoping that you and I are of the same mind and we can resolve this outside of court. The credit union would like to offer you a reduction in your payments. Would you believe the reduction is 60%? So I wrote back and I said, thank you very much. I'll be declining your offer. Please find enclosed 22 more questions. The latest letter from the credit union was a letter that said, dear Mr. Mc Keown, we would like to resolve this with you, and we note that you said you'd like to resolve it also in the best way possible. We therefore would ask you to contact us and let us know what you're able and willing to pay. The letter is going out very soon to say thank you, but no thank you. I'd like to go to court, and I'd like you to stop avoiding the answering that you must do of the particulars of notice of particulars. You see, they know if they get me into a court, and I bring in the expert witness, and I produce the book, and I produce the information, I can buy a lot of time and get a lot of coverage, and I can put a hole in their boat so big it will make the Titanic go. And they know it. Because they know you don't owe money. You don't owe money. But just in case that wasn't clear enough, you don't owe money. The way of the future is debt-free. It is possible. But the only thing that creates a debt-free future is you deciding to become debt-free by changing your perspective. The group that organised this evening, there's information in your seat. They're a support group. They'll help you understand this. The questions you have, they'll answer. If you're in trouble with repossessions, they'll help you deal with that. You know the sheriff has no power over you. You know in this county, if the sheriff comes to take your home, you can very simply give him a little bit of information that helps him to know that you know what you're talking about, and he and the guards will leave. And they will not touch your home. They cannot. And constitutionally, your home cannot be touched. They cannot touch your home. Even if the bank do take it to court, even if there is a judgment, even if the judge does say, take us home, they cannot, because you are protected by the constitution of this free land. And when you understand who you really are, you realize that the legalese of the court system is only a suggestion that you may or you may not want to follow. The true law in this land, the true law of Ireland, is common law, upon which all legalese is built. And the common law of this land states that you are free, you are sovereign, and no one has an authority over you other than your own self and the God that you believe in, the God that guides you through your life, whoever he or she may be. You are free. Right now in this country, there is a mass awakening. All over the nation, there is a mass awakening of people who are saying no to the banks. The banks are denying it's happening. I know people numbering into the thousands. And I know groups of people who are supporting other groups into the thousands, and we now know it is into the multiple of tens of thousands of people not paying the bills. You are going to see the system collapse. There's two options.